colleagues' attention a dire and worsening situation developing in South Dakota and in several other states across the Great Plains. South Dakota is currently experiencing a severe, if not historic, drought, and it's getting worse. Almost every week we're breaking records for lack of rainfall and high temperatures in communities across the state. And keep in mind, South Dakota was one of the hardest hit regions of the country during the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. We've seen droughts before, and this one may ultimately rank among the worst. I have beside me the most recent drought monitor map released last Thursday. As you can see, a significant portion of central South Dakota, indicated here on the map, is considered an exceptional drought, the most severe category the monitor recognizes. A considerably larger portion of the state is experiencing extreme drought, and 80% of the state is currently experiencing some drought today. Let me share some statistics with you. The ranching communities of Kadoka and Newell both experienced their second driest June on record. For the months of April and June combined, the communities of Timberlake, Kennebec, and Falkton experienced the driest conditions ever for those communities, and we have records going back more than 100 years. The first 6 months of this year were the driest ever for Timberlake. That community received 3.61 inches of precipitation for the entire 6-month period, a mere 35% of average. It also set an all-time record temperature on Saturday of 112 degrees. Also last Saturday, it was 116 degrees in Mobridge, South Dakota, a regional trade center larger than the other towns I've mentioned. Mobridge, located near the North Dakota border along the Missouri River. It is a regional trade center, larger than the other towns that I've mentioned. It had the driest 6 months ever recorded in that community, only 2 and 2.3 inches of precipitation over an entire half year. This is less than 25% of their average rainfall. This is farm and ranch country, and the effects have been devastating. Agricultural conditions are very dire and deteriorating. I've heard reports of ranchers completely liquidating their cattle herds as feed and water disappear. There's insufficient grass to get the entire herd through the summer. There's no hay to get these animals through the fall and the winter. Wheat fields have burned up, and hopes for a decent corn and soybean harvest are fading fast. The record high temperatures of the last week have come at the time that the corn is tasseling, a critical time for the crop. A farmer can lose up to 8% of yield a day under conditions of such severe stress. Conditions on the afternoon of July 15th on the family farm of one of the leaders of the South Dakota Corn Growers Association was 112 degrees in the shade, only 20% humidity, accompanied by 42-mile-an-hour winds. This in the center part of the state, but moving south and east. Despite burn bans in many counties in the state, wildfires are becoming an increasing problem as well. As just one example, on July 5th, a prairie fire began near Waukwalla, South Dakota, and it burned across 600 acres of grassland in 25 minutes. The water level in Lake Oahe, the largest of South Dakota's 4 Missouri River reservoirs, continues to drop and is now only about 4 feet above the record low set 2 years ago. And unfortunately, the precipitation outlook isn't good. According to Weather Service computer models and projections, there's no relief in sight. Any new rainfall is expected to be light and isolated, and temperatures are expected to be much warmer than average in the coming weeks. The temperature in our state capital of Pierre on Saturday was 117 degrees, an all-time record temperature. The Climate Prediction Center's most recent drought outlook predicts that the current drought will not only continue, it will worsen in the Dakotas and may expand across eastern Montana, Minnesota, and parts of Iowa. Unfortunately, compared to other natural disasters, droughts suffer from some real public relations disadvantages. First, they don't get memorable names to personify them like hurricanes. They creep in slowly and quietly, and they don't destroy buildings or sweep away trees. They don't inundate cities. In other words, they simply don't make for good video on the evening news. But the damage they wreak is just as real as any other natural disasters. Droughts devastate family farms and ranches, small businesses and local economies. Families and communities suffer the same kind of economic and emotional toll from drought that are caused by other natural disasters. The stress for families worsens as the cattle herd is sold and non-farm or ranch employment is sought, if any can be found, in smaller rural communities. And sometimes such severe drought can even weaken the intrinsic optimism of the people who live and work and raise families in rural America. That's what's beginning to happen in central South Dakota today. Conditions there are truly devastating, and it's becoming increasingly clear that Congress must do something to address this situation. Many other areas of the country are similarly affected, and they deserve our attention and our assistance just as much as do victims of hurricanes or floods or earthquakes or any other natural event that devastates economies and lives. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate this opportunity to bring this situation to my colleagues' attention, and I look forward to working together to address this important matter. Thank you. I yield.